We continue learning Kitzur Yomi, and we continue with Simin Yud Aleph, the halachis of Mezuzah. We'll be learning from Sif Aleph through Sif Yud Aleph. Says the Kitzur, and in the Akdama over here points out that the Makar from Chsavtam Mezuzah Beisecha Uvish Arecha, that Mezuzah means the doorpost, that you have to write the Shem Hashem there, and inside is the Parsha of Shema and V'haya Im Shemaya. Says the Kitzur mitzvahs asay. It is a positive commandment. Likboya mezuzah bechol Pesach. To put a mezuzah at every entrance to your house, door to every room. Fili yisha kama chadarim, many rooms in your house. L'chol cheder kama psachim, many entrances. Hasiyun lachnisa v'yitzia, they go in and out. Aval pishu ragel rak be'echav v'yam. Let's say only use one door. B'kol makoim. Kulan chayavim, they all are chayavim mezuzah. Afilim nismatu ad yurim. And says the Kitzur, let's say there's not that many people in the house. You have a massive house, let's say, and only one room is being used. Mikol makam kulan chayavim. All rooms are obligated in mezuzah. Continues the Kitzur. However, if you have a room that's not used regularly, but only to go kinisa, only to go in. It's a loading door. There's another room for entering and exiting. Is going to be Petura. And in note 4, it points out what's going to be an example. It's going to be an example that you have the room that you use. And then you have another door that's a loading dock from the street. They put things in through there. The stock room, that side will not need a mezuzah. And just by the way, as we begin learning mezuzah, one should realize this is one of the incredible advents of Kitzur, is that we're not only learning Arachayim. These are halachas in Yeridea, in Rish Pei Vav. The incredible schos of Kitzur is that we get to cover the gamut of halacha. We continue with Sif Beis, Gam Sharich Chatzeris, gates of a courtyard, Muvois, in streets, Vayaras, in cities, Medinos, and provinces, Chavim Mezuzah Shem, Arabi Sharecha, in your gates. So which side does it go on? The $1 million question. So says the Kitzur, the right side, on your way in. Vim Kavav is small, it's psula, which is why it's so important to get the right side. So last year, you got to remove it, like put it back in the right, and make a bracha. It doesn't make a difference if you're righty or lefty, it's on the right side. But now, if you have two houses, each one has a door to the street, so you have two rooms going to the street. And now there's a door going into each one. And now this is what everyone's house has. You have a room, you go into your house, and you have the door into the kitchen, and you don't know which way you go. Again, you got two entrances. And now the door in between, which way do you go? Is it the right from this side or is it the right from this side? The classical issue in any house that you can have a door that you could go in from two different sides, a dining room, a living room, etc. As long as an internal bedroom only needs to have one entrance and exit. But anytime you can have a room that goes back and forth, which side do you put it on? So the Kitzur says, here we go by the hinge, pirush, where the hinges of the door are fashioned. Door opens into the room. Ikar abayis. And it goes on the right side of there. Now, the problem is, as note 15 says, we're assuming the door is made to open into the primary room, and therefore that's how you figure it out. The problem is firstly, as the Kitzur is about to say, that's not always true. And secondly, especially nowadays, people put doors on whatever way they want. Says the Kitzur, they're both equal, but if one is an ikr, and the second is only used occasionally, I don't care about Kitzur then. The right side that you're entering, you go into the ikr. And this is really step number 1. How do we figure out which way the mezuzah goes on? It's the right side going into whichever room is called the ikr. Again, you got to basically figure out the flow of traffic. What's the normal way? Because we assume we enter into that which side is the ikr. So Got to figure out which is the normal way that you're generally, the traffic is flowing in the house. You're normally going into the kitchen or you exiting the kitchen. You're going into the dining room or exiting the dining room. Mekayma, where do you place it? Mezuzah betchila shlisha aliyah on the top, the beginning, the tchila of the upper third, shall go v'ashar, the height of the doorway. Kavod l'mala mizek sher. If it's higher, it's kosher. V'sheichenim min hamash ketefach, as long as it's a tefach away from the top. So within a tefach of your, here's your roof, within a tefach you can't place mezuzah, underneath there until the third. Now most people, if you measure, it's not at the bottom of the top third. That's just what many people do. Shteva Levi says, it's fine, you could leave it there. But below, you got to remove it and put it back on. With a bracha. If you put it at the top tefach, you have to remove it and put it back on. Now, if you have a thick doorway, where does it go? On the tefach towards the outside. And the simple way to remember this is note 18 says you want to hit your mezuzah first, because we just think about the mezuzah is your shmirah. So you want your shmirah all the way out. You don't want your shmirah all the way in, because then that whole area is not watched. However, if you didn't do this, it's not ma'akev, and you do not have to change the location. Continues the Kitzur Sivav, Kate said, Kavai. How do you do it? Karcham, you roll it off from end to beginning. The Hainu. When you open up the mezuzah, the first thing you see is Shema. Kitzur says nails. Note 20 says don't make a hole through the parchment. And we'll point out that it has to be strong. That's what masmeirim mean. If you have very strong tape, that's fine. According to many shitas, I should say. And it's on a diagonal. Why? Note 21 points out, because the machlekes is supposed to be up or down. So what do? We make a pshara. Good thought. Every time you walk into a room, his life works well with a pshara. The top, the Shema part, is leaning inward toward the house. Shita achreina, the bottom is a tzad chutz. If the doorpost is not wide enough to be diagonal, it's fine, you can make it straight. And this is better than to put it behind the door, as we'll see in a few moments in Sif 9, which there is a potential, but it's not l'chatzchila. And like kava, if you don't put it on elatlaf, you hung it. As we said, strong nails, top and bottom. It should not be hinky. You make one bracha. Note 23 says, Avada, you have in mind not to talk, and you try not to talk between putting up the mezuzahs. Mezuzah falls by itself. So many halachas, we're getting loaded today. The mezuzah falls by itself. As we pointed out, when we learned about your talis falling off, we said the same thing, that because it's a hesach hadas, you have to make a new bracha. But if you took it off to check it, then it's a suffix. We'll point out that the pashit psak halacha is like Rav Yashiv, which is if your mezuzah is off for an overnight time, which usually, I shouldn't say usually, but often it is, you give in your mezuzah, you get it back a day or two later, then you make a bracha. Because in some gateways, Sivchas, you have a small door next to a larger door. And you go through the smaller door. Sorry, not through. You have like a massive door, and then you have a little door next to it, and you don't really use the big door. But since there are two different entrances, and you have a tefach between them, as many big buildings you'll have, that you have multiple doors. Each one has a tefach in between. Each one needs its own mezuzah. But you're worried they're going to steal your mezuzah. If you could carve it into the wall, you see this in Eretz Yisrael all over the place. That's the best. However, shouldn't go all the way into the doorpost of tefach. As I called on the doorpost. It's inside. You have to be careful. As we mentioned, Eretz Yisrael, often you have these brick buildings. You'll see this little cutout. You'll have to see the mezuzah there. or you make a marking, says the Pesach Tshuva, to know the mezuzah is there. If you can't do that, then it's behind the door. But again, realize there's only shas atchak. There are places that do this. It's really not lechatchila. The mezuzah has to be on the doorpost. Not on the wall. And you should not distance it more than a tefach from the entranceway itself. A room is only chayv, it's 4x4. Note 27 points out between 40 and 57 square feet. 4 amos is approximately 7 feet by 7 feet. We mean by arba amos, meaning it's not actually 7 by 7, but it has the square footage of 16 square amos. Let's say it's a 10 by 4, or 10 by 4 was silly. 10 by 3, if it's circling, it is a machlokes. We'll just point out that you definitely would not make a bracha. You would put on the mezuzah l'chumra, but you would not make a bracha, as we're about to see right now in Sif Yud Aleph. You only chayv mezuzah if you have 2 doorposts. It has to be at least 10 tfachim tall. And a lintel on top of them. So again, if you don't have a lintel, if your doorposts go straight to the ceiling, there's no lintel, no doorpost, there's no doorway. Even if the doorposts were not made of wood or stone, but it's the wall itself. This is where things get confusing. You have your end walls. With the roof on top, then you are chayev. If he only has one mezuzah, like one side goes and continues, and we have a picture here that we could try to pretend that we can figure it out. Not so complicated, not so simple. But here, when you would enter into this room, you see that you have a doorpost on your right side. Now, if this was the reverse way, which now everyone is thoroughly confused, then you would not be able to have it because then there's no mezuzah on that side. But here, if you're walking into this interesting shaped room, then there is the mezuzah on that side in your chayiv. This is where you ask a shayla because it is confusing. Because mitzad small, like we just spoke out, it's petura. Mitzad yamin, then yishavik imcheves oloi. And what do we do whenever we have a suffix? Or put it up after you put up a different one. We'll just say that anytime you have one of these funky doorways, ask a shayla.